Las Vegas is shifting again, but this time the pattern is getting harder to ignore. So reports of ATM fees as high as $15 and order gratuities reaching 22% on a single drink, a $1.16 billion land deal on the North Strip, while venue fees quietly start appearing on dinner bills further south. Recently, the LVCVA approved a rare $52.5 million marketing push. That's roughly double a typical quarterly spend, and it's aimed at reinforcing the idea that Vegas is still a value. Now, when tens of millions are spent just to reinforce a value message, let's assign the math is getting harder for the average traveler to ignore. I mean, we've been watching these costs climb for years, hoping the resorts will finally hit reset. But as we kick off January 2026, it's clear the big players are doubling down instead. From nearly 10 straight months of airport declines to a half-finished casino site changing hands far beyond its original investment, well, this winter is shaping up to be a real inflection point. I mean, we aren't here to panic. We live here, but we have to be honest about the numbers. So get ready for the deep dive into the biggest news, the major changes, and the sobering truth about the new Vegas economy for January 2026. And hey, real quick before we dive in, if you love getting the real Vegas updates without the fluff, go ahead and hit that thumbs up. It really makes a difference. And don't forget to hit that subscribe. We're close to our 300,000 subscriber goal, and every single one of you helps us keep this going. So thank you. Truly. All right, now let's jump into it. We're starting with the one place where the numbers don't lie. Harry Reid International Airport. Now, the data for the end of 2025 is officially in, and it's a wake-up call for the Strip. So November alone saw passenger traffic down roughly 9.6% year over year, according to airport data. Now, that's nearly 500,000 fewer people walking through those gates in a single month. This isn't just a seasonal dip. It marks the 10th consecutive month of declines. So year to date, we've lost nearly 3 million travelers compared to 2024. But the real story is where those people come from. So international traffic is reported down more than 20%, with Canadian travel seeing some of the steepest declines. So between new tariffs and a brewing travel boycott, while our neighbors to the north, who usually keep the Strip humming during the midweek slump, are simply staying home or choosing other destinations instead. And it's not just the planes either. So the LVCVA also reported a double-digit decline in combined room tax and gaming fee revenue last quarter. Even the Las Vegas monorail is seeing 13% fewer rides. So the agency's response was that massive $52.5 million ad campaign we mentioned. Now, they're clearly trying to rebuild a value reputation that's taken a hit over the past few years. When the city's primary marketing arm has to double its budget just to keep the narrative from spiraling, you know the pricing war has officially reached a tipping point. Now, this is the part where worse again really starts to hit home. So for years, we've talked about resort fees, which at some Strip properties are now pushing past $60 per night. But 2026 is bringing a whole new era of fee stacking. We're seeing more restaurants quietly adding venue fees, those concession fees, and CNF surcharges to your restaurant bills, even at casual spots like Alexa's or Beer Park. Now, these are typically mid-single digit percentage charges added before tax and tip, but it's getting to the point where the prices on the menu is just a suggestion. And it's not just the food, y'all. The parking fee creep is back. So MGM has moved towards a standardized $40 valet rate at many of its Strip properties. Now, those grace periods for locals and Pearl or Gold members, well, they're getting tighter or disappearing entirely during event dates. So even the simple act of getting your own cash has become a profit center. Now, while standard bank fees are one thing, we've now seen reports of $15 ATM fees at major Strip properties. And if you're pulling out $100, well, you're losing 15% before you even place a bet. Y'all, there's a vibe shift happening a lot of people feel but can't quite explain. So last week on January 3rd, Disco Show over at The Link officially took its final bow. Now, this wasn't just another lounge act. It was a massive $40 million investment from Spiegelworld that only lasted a year. So when a $40 million production on the 50-yard line of the Strip can't fill seats, it tells you the middle market is in serious trouble. And it's not alone. So even the high-end experiences are feeling the squeeze. So the Mayfair Supper Club at Bellagio, you know, one of the most successful dinner and a show concepts in the city, well, it just ended its current run to undergo a total reinvention. When even the Bellagio decides a full reinvention is necessary on a popular concept, you know the house is worried about stagnant ticket sales. The Strip is leaning more on these massive, safe residencies like the Backstreet Boys or Jennifer Lopez, while the unique mid-tier entertainment that made Vegas feel like a playground is being squeezed out. So you're paying more for less variety.
And that is a dangerous game for a city built on the idea of endless options.
This is where Vegas starts feeling a little less like an adventure and a little more like a luxury mall, even if you can't put your finger on why. Now, let's talk about the stalled side of the Strip. While the mega landlords like VICI Properties are busy closing $1.16 billion deals for that land under the Strat, the actual builders are hitting a wall. I mean, look at the Dream Las Vegas project on the South Strip. It was supposed to be a 527-room luxury boutique resort, but after $120 million was pumped into the ground, construction came to a halt. In a move that shocked the market, the lead contractor, McCarthy Building Companies, actually seized ownership of the site through a legal settlement over unpaid bills. So think about that. A developer didn't just lose their project. They lost the land and the concrete to their own construction crew. It was recently listed for sale in the $50 million range, a fraction of what's already reportedly been invested. And then there's the Bally's Tropicana site. Now, while the Athletics have their funding in place and are currently going vertical with the stadium, the resort that's supposed to surround it is in a state of financial limbo. Bally's recently announced a $1.1 billion loan, but it's earmarked for their new project in New York City. So we're looking at a real possibility that the A's might be playing ball next to a 26-acre vacant lot for years. But it's not all concrete skeletons. If you look at the center of the Strip right now, you see one project that is moving at a breakneck pace. The Hard Rock's Qatar Hotel, the 660-foot tower replacing the Mirage, is officially taking shape. Look, as we sit here in January 2026, the structural steel is nearing the top floors, and the signature blue glass is already being installed halfway up the tower. And unlike the Dream or the Tropicana site, the Hard Rock is a $4 billion statement that the Strip isn't denying. It's just being rebuilt for a much wealthier audience. And they aren't just building a hotel, they are doubling the size of the casino floor to 174,000 square feet. This brings us to what I call the Vegas paradox. Now, we are living in a city of two tales. So for the tourist, Vegas has never been more expensive, but for the local, it's becoming unlivable. So in late 2025, the median home price in Las Vegas didn't just rise, it exploded to a new record of $488,995. Think about that. Even with tourism numbers cooling and the airport losing 3 million people, the price of a standard home jumped by nearly $15,000 in a single month. And according to the latest census data, Nevada now has the fourth highest renter to homeowner ratio in the entire country. So nearly 40% of households here are renters, and they're being squeezed by a housing market that is 8% more expensive than the national average. So when you combine record high housing for the workers and record high venue fees for the visitors, well, you get the SF Gate recently called a perfect storm of unaffordability. I mean, the person pouring your $18 cocktail can no longer afford to live in many of these surging areas. Now, we're seeing a massive affordability gap where real wages in the hospitality sector have failed to keep up with inflation for 3 years straight. So that's why you're seeing service standards slip and those order gratuities being forced on every bill. So the system is trying to subsidize a cost of living that has officially outpaced the industry. And while the Strip can start to feel more like a luxury mall than a playground, the neighborhoods like Chinatown are where the real energy and the real money is moving. So on December 17th, Clark County officially approved the Jade Promenade, a $40 million pedestrian-first retail hub on Spring Mountain. And just down the street, the 25,000 square foot Chubby World Japanese complex has taken over the old Firestone site. The locals, are voting with their feet and their wallets. They're heading west towards Spring Mountain and Summerlin, away from the fountains and the $15 ATMs. If you've ever hit a $1,200 jackpot and had to wait 45 minutes for a slot attendant to bring you a tax form while your machine sat frozen, I have some news that is 48 years in the making. As of January 1st, 2026, the IRS reporting threshold for slot machine jackpots has finally increased from $1,200 to $2,000. Now, this is the first time this limit has been touched since it was originally set back in 1977. Now, under these new rules, if you hit for $1,500 or $1,800, you won't be issued a W-2G on the spot. You get your money, you keep your privacy, and you don't have to deal with the paperwork nightmare right there on the floor. But here's a Vegas pro tip for this month. So even though the law is now in effect, don't be surprised if some machines haven't caught up yet. So we're hearing from industry insiders that because thousands of these units require manual software updates to change their internal lockup logic, you might still see phantom lockups. That's when the machine still freezes at $1,200, even though a tax form is no longer required. And if that happens to you, an attendant will still have to come over and manually set the machine. But the good news? If it's under $2,000, you shouldn't have to fill out any federal paperwork.
Just be prepared for a little New Year lag while the floor tax catches up to the law. But just keep this in mind.
The IRS still wants their cut.
Now, there is an important catch that started this year. Now, a new limit on your deductions.
For the first time ever,
You can only deduct 90% of your gambling losses against your wins.
think about the math.
If you win $100,000 this year, but you also lose $100,000, the IRS is going to treat you as if you have a $10,000 in phantom income. So you'll owe taxes on money you don't actually have in your pocket.
So while the $2,000 limit
Saves you time at the machine, the new deduction rule might cost you a fortune at the end of the year.
so the House
Always finds a way to win, and in 2026, the tax man is the biggest player at the table.
All right,
Let's lightning round through the rest of the major changes you're going to see this month. If you're watching this on release day, January 8th, you are currently in the eye of the storm for CES 2026. This is the city's largest trade show, bringing over 200,000 tech professionals to the Strip this week. And if you're wondering why your Uber is $60 or why the monorail is standing room only, this is why.
So CES is so massive this year,
It has taken over 2.5 million square feet of exhibit space across 12 different venues,
from the convention center all the way down to
Mandalay Bay.
And speaking of Mandalay Bay, well, Tom Brady's Cardinal is officially open at Mandalay Place. Now, it's a massive flagship for high-end sports card and memorabilia.
And if you're a collector, this is your new home base on the South End.
Now, on the food front,
Netflix Bites, you know that popular pop-up at the MGM Grand?
well, it's officially shuttered on January 4th,
It's being replaced by the return of the Avenue Cafe.
and it's signaling a shift back to
Traditional dining concepts as the pop-up trends start to cool.
However, the luxury scene is still exploding.
So Gymkhana opened last month at Aria, marking the first US location for the 2 Michelin-starred Indian icon from London.
And for a bit of local nostalgia,
So the legendary Lotus at Siam has officially announced it's returning to its roots at the commercial center of East Sahara.
now they're taking over a massive 19,000 square foot space, nearly double the size of their original footprint.
It's a huge win for the east side of town and another sign that the real Vegas is still moving off Strip.
Now, if you're planning a trip for the rest of January 2026, the vibe on the Strip
Shifts completely.
Now we're moving
Out of the holiday holdovers and into what I'm calling the 2026 Residency Slam.
The big story is
The Sphere. Now, while the Wizard of Oz immersive experience is still running during the day to capture the family crowds, the concert lineup is officially taking over the night. I mean, Zac Brown Band is hitting their stride this week with their Love and Fear residency, including high demand dates on January 9th, 10th, 16th, and 17th.
But the real heavy hitters arrive on January 23rd,
When the Eagles return for their final 2026 run.
I mean, if you haven't seen Joe Walsh's guitar solo projected across 160,000 square feet of LED space,
You haven't truly seen the Sphere yet.
now over at the Coliseum at Caesar's Palace, we're seeing a major change of the guard. So Jennifer Lopez just wrapped up her dates,
Making way for country superstar Blake Shelton, who officially launches his new residency on January 15th.
Now Blake is doing an 8-show run through the end of the month that's already
Trending towards sellout,
fueled by his
latest chart topper, Texas. But the most new Vegas announcement of the year is at Dolby Live at Park MGM. So Zayn Malik is launching his first ever Las Vegas residency starting January 20th.
Now this is a master
Strategic win for MGM. It's a 7-night limited engagement specifically designed to drive a younger,
high-spending
demographic to the Park MGM district. However, if you prefer classic rock, well, the Venetian Theater is the place to be.
So you got
Styx starts their annual residency on January 23rd, where they'll be performing the Pieces of 8 album in its entirety.
Now these shows are a local favorite
Because the theater is intimate.
there truly
Isn't a bad seat in the house.
And for something a little more exclusive,
You got Ashley Simpson is doing a glamour heavy run at Voltaire
starting the same weekend.
January 23rd and 24th.
Even the mid-tier venues
Are getting in on the action. So $1 Million Quartet officially moves into its new home at the Hafen Theater starting January 30th, ensuring that even while the $40 million production like Disco Show might be struggling,
the classic Vegas tribute energy is still alive and well. All right, so what's the honest truth?
2026 is officially the year of the informed visitor.
So the LVCVA
Is spending $50 million to tell you Vegas is a deal, while the corporate resorts are charging you up to
$15 just to use an ATM.
I mean, you have to be your own advocate now. Check your receipts for those hidden 4.8 concession fees. Look for the venue fee at the bar. And remember that even though the jackpot threshold is now
$2,000?
those slot machines might still freeze at $1,200 until they get their software updates.
My best advice for this month, vote with your feet.
I mean, if the Strip feels like it's squeezing you too hard,
Head to the Arts District.
or Chinatown, you'll find the old Vegas value and the new Vegas energy without the $4 parking
Or the $12 coffees. We still believe Vegas is a great place to visit, but right now, the house is playing a much more aggressive game. We're here every week to make sure you have the information to protect yourself. If this deep dive Las Vegas update helped you spot a fee you didn't know about or saved you a headache on your next trip, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're tracking the airport declines, the new residencies, and the shifting economy in real time so you don't have to. Thanks for watching, y'all, and we'll see you in the next one.